There is a ton of value in current Underdog Playoff Best Ball ADP. Elite offenses like the Bills are easy to stack. Take advantage of uncertainty and start drafting now. Use the promo code SEEK for up to $100 match on your first deposit. And subscribe to Heat Seeker Sports on YouTube for Underdog strategy and drafting shows. Hey, what's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you are watching one of my Underdog draft shows. I've been doing a lot of playoff best ball, and I'm going to demonstrate what kind of value you can get right now for playoff best ball. So I'm going to share a draft with you guys. If you use the promo code SEEK, you can get a $100 deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit with Underdog. And I'm going to show you guys what it's like to draft in one of these playoff best ball drafts. Looks like I got the second spot here, which is a good spot to get because I can either go Christian McCaffrey or Jalen Hurts. I like both those options. If you go with San Francisco, you have to be prepared to kind of cover your ass because San Francisco is likely to have that first round bye. I think that they're going to get the number 1 seed in the conference over Philadelphia, which is why I like being in that number 2 spot, because let the other guy draft Christian McCaffrey and then I'll draft Jalen Hurts, who I think the Eagles have a pretty good shot of making it to the Super Bowl this year. And, you know, I think they're probably the best team or the second best team in the NFC. I don't think that Dallas warrants having CeeDee Lamb in the number 2 spot. I don't think that they'll make it very far in the playoffs. They typically don't, but anything can happen. Like, so if you're a fan of drafting the Cowboys, if you think they're going to make it far into the playoffs, CeeDee Lamb would be a good option too. I just happen to believe that either the Eagles or San Francisco is going to win the NFC. So I prefer to go a direction of the Eagles. And the team that I want to kind of pair them with, a lot of this is about drafting pods of teams that you believe will make it to the Super Bowl. So you're trying to draft an NFC team and an AFC team that you believe can make it far in the playoffs or make it to a Super Bowl or might surprise. Like a lot of the ADP for later values that you get are teams that everybody is kind of writing off. But every once in a while, you'll find teams back there that could pull an upset, like the Jaguars last year when they won the first round of the playoffs last year. That was unexpected. And the Jags, you can get super late in the draft. That ended up being a good pick, because if you drafted Eagles or Chiefs, I believe both those teams were the number 1 seeds last year, and you have to draft them very early in these drafts. So you're drafting teams that have first round buys. You're not getting any points for the first round for those players. That's why I like to avoid, for the most part, the number 1 seeds, unless I really believe in the team. But you have to make it up later in the draft by trying to find a really good value. So I'm going to draft Devontae Smith here. I'm drafting Smith to pair with Hurts. One team that I like pairing with the Eagles this year is the Bills, because the Bills right now are going a lot later than, like I think that they should be going. And right now we have guys like Josh Allen still on the table. Looks like Steph Diggs has been taken already, which is too bad because that's generally who I'd like to pair them with. But it's going to leave me in a situation where I'm kind of trying to decide which direction that I want to go with who I want to pair them with. Because normally I would try to pair the Bills with the Eagles, but the value's not there, obviously, today. So I'm going to go with a different direction and maybe pair them with I'm going to pair them with the Chiefs, because the Chiefs, obviously can go far in the playoffs. So I'm building right now for an Eagles-Chiefs build. Chiefs, I don't think are going to even come close to getting the number 1 seed. So this is like 2 teams that, I think can make it pretty far into the playoffs. Purdy, if I had drafted Christian McCaffrey with the first or with the pick that I was at. If I was able to do that, then I would have taken Purdy there, because you're trying to stack teams too. Your goal is to make a quarterback, running back, and 3 wide receiver tight ends into the Super Bowl. And you want to get as many of those guys into the Super Bowl as you can. So you want to keep your teams tight. You want to keep your teams, like within whatever teams you're projecting to make it to the Super Bowl. If you venture too far outside of that, it can end up biting you in the ass, because when you get to the Super Bowl, you end up not having everything that you need to fill a total lineup. And by total lineup, I mean a quarterback, a running back, and 3 wide receivers / tight ends. And I think there's a flex in there too. I'll go over that in a minute here. I just got to draft my my next guy. I'm going to go with James Cook on this next one, because I don't mind having Chiefs, Bills, and Eagles as my main guys. So I'm going to put Dallas Goedert as my next guy that I'm going to draft. Hopefully he falls to me. That will give me another Eagle to stack with Jalen Hurts. A lot of this is just kind of like playing the ADP. This is a lot different than normal best ball, like where you are trying to, draft value in ADP. In playoff best ball, it's more about trying to stack teams. That is the most important thing, because you're trying to get those teams to the Super Bowl. So as you can see, right now I have Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Rashee Rice, James Cook, and Dallas Goedert. So those are the 3 teams that I'm going to focus on drafting right now. I'm going to see if Gabe Davis is available. Gabe Davis is available, so I'm going to try to get him with my next pick. Hopefully he won't get taken before it gets to me. With this too, you're trying not to waste too many spots. Like, you don't want to draft too many quarterbacks. You don't want to draft like too many running backs. You want to get those positions shored up with guys that are, consistent. And you want to save your volatility for the wide receiver tight end spot. That's where you want to have a lot more players. It's got just more upside that way. It's coming to me next, and that dude just took Gabe Davis from me. So I'm looking at Jerick McKinnon now. I'm just going to draft Jerick McKinnon here. And you're probably wondering why I'm drafting Jerick McKinnon over guys like Sam Laporta and Odell Beckham and guys like that, Calvin Ridley. It's just because if you commit to a guy or commit to a team, you gotta go all in on it. You want to try to get as many people on that team as possible. I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid here. That gives me another bill. So you can see, like, I'm at Jalen Hurts, James Cook, and Jerick McKinnon, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Rashee Rice, and Dalton Kincaid. So I got the Eagles locked in to go to the Super Bowl, and I'm hoping that either the Bills or the Chiefs are going to go to the Super Bowl as well. As far as positional needs, you need 1 quarterback, 2 wide receiver tight ends, 1 running back, and 1 flex. So when I say I'm looking for, like 3 wide receiver tight ends, that's to fill that flex position too. But you can obviously fill that flex position with a running back too. These drafts are really short too. So we're already on the final round here. So I'm going to, for this last spot, I'm not necessarily concerned about stacking one of my team guys. I'm going to try to find the best value that I can on the board that will cover me. Like if I don't have the strength in a certain position, I'd like to get a running back here that I think can make it. I can look at Rachaad White. He's interesting. I think that the Bucs are going to make it to the playoffs. Or I could go with let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go with Rachaad White. I don't like the options currently have at the wide receiver tight end position. So for my final pick, let's see. I got to kind of scramble here to try to find a guy worth drafting for my final pick. Justin Watson just got taken off the board. I'm going to draft Mike Evans to go along with that pick, because Mike Evans is obviously a ton of upside. So I'm adding the Bucks into this build. I've got Rachaad White and Mike Evans kind of shoring up that Bucks. I don't think the Bucks will make it far in the playoffs, but I think if they get to round one, which I think that they will, I think they can put up a lot of points or have a decent performance in round one. So that will help the rest of my team advance to round two. Like, it's very difficult to get an entire team through the first round. So when you get to these later rounds, you're just really looking for value mainly, or to shore up your stacks. Right now, I don't see a ton of value, so I'm probably going to go with a Kadarius Toney, or try to find someone on the Chiefs that might be good. Khalil Shakir is another guy for my Bills stack. I'm going to put him in. I'm going to see what else I have on the Chiefs here. Not a whole lot on the Chiefs. I think Sky Moore just got put on IR, so I'm not going to draft him. So I think my best option is Khalil Shakir right now. Once you get this far, you start to see things thinning out a lot. I got to get Keaton Mitchell out of my player pool. He just found out he just tore his ACL, which is too bad for the guy. He's having a great year as a rookie for the Ravens. So I'm going to take Khalil Shakir here and round out my team. So ended up with Jalen Hurts as my only quarterback, as you can see here. Devontae Smith is my stack with him. Rashee Rice for that Kansas City representation. James Cook for my Bills representation. As you can see, I stacked one NFC team with two AFC teams that I think can make it far, if not to the Super Bowl. Dallas Goedert was my other pairing with Jalen Hurts. And then I got Dalton Kincaid, Mike Evans, and Khalil Shakir. So it's mainly Bills, but if the Bills don't go far in the playoffs, I still got the Chiefs to fall back on. For running backs, I have James Cook, Jerick McKinnon, and Rachaad White. And then I went with Mike Evans as well, just to kind of have a mini Tampa Bay stack. That is for first round insurance. That is for hoping that if the Bucks make it to the playoffs, we're really early in the cycle right now. We've still got about 3 weeks until the playoffs. So you're going to find a lot of value, like with some of these teams that people don't know what their chances are of making it to the playoffs or whatever. You really got to study that stuff, because you can put yourself at a huge advantage. Let's see if I can take a look at that team real quick. Yeah, there it is. All right, so you can really put yourself at an advantage if you are familiar with the seeding and everything. And to do that, like, I recommend going to ESPN. They have a playoff machine, and with that playoff machine, you can kind of project which teams are going to make it to the playoffs. Let me show that to you real quick. Let's see. Here's my playoff machine. You can get an idea of how I projected teams to advance. See, if you see week 16, right? Well, week 15 first. I got the Eagles beating the Seahawks. And you can see, actually you can't see, but the link for it is ESPN.com/NFL/playoffs/machine. Really easy URL to remember. I'll post that in the description as well, because you're going to want to use this. This is a good tool to have. This is going to help you figure out which teams are safe to draft and which teams to avoid. And as you can see in week 15, I have the Eagles beating the Seahawks. So I'm projecting the Eagles to win tonight. We still haven't had that game. It's only 4 o'clock. Next week in week 16, I have the Rams beating the Saints. I have the Vikings over the Lions. I think the Lions could actually take that game too. But in the divisional round, I wanted to see what would happen if I had the Vikings winning. It doesn't impact the Vikings standings at all. Like, it doesn't propel them into the playoffs. They need some more help to get into the playoffs. We'll use that as an example in a few minutes here. I got the Steelers beating the Bengals at home. That could easily go towards the Bengals, but I have the Steelers beating them. I have the Bucks beating the Jags. That could easily go with the Jags. I have the Bears beating the Cardinals, which I think is pretty safe. I got the Bills beating the Chargers. And you can see kind of like where I went with my projections for the rest of this week. The important thing is when you're doing this, you get to play around a bit, right? So I know with me drafting the Bills and going heavy on the Bills, you don't see them in this setup right here for the first round, right? That's because in week 18, I have the Dolphins beating the Bills. But if they pull off the upset, the Bills are going to get the 4th seed based on my projections, right? And the teams that I think are going to win and everything. So I am betting that the Bills are going to beat the Dolphins in week 18, basically. And that's where I'm getting this value on the Bills. I'm getting the Bills stacks in the 3rd through 5th round right now, basically. And that is a value relative to previous years when the Bills were favorites to win the Super Bowl. And I think that they are just as likely to win the Super Bowl this year as they have been in years past, but they're just a little sloppy this year, which is good for giving us a good value. And it gives a good opportunity to draft them right now, because if they start going on a run, people are going to start talking about them again like they're Super Bowl contenders. Right now, nobody's talking about the Bills as Super Bowl contenders because people don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. So that's giving us a huge value with the Bills right now, if you believe that they can make it to the playoffs. It's a big bet because you need them to beat the Dolphins in week 18. But I think what we saw them just kind of manhandling the Cowboys last night, that's a preview of what we're going to see out of the Bills for the rest of the season. And that's the bet that I've been making for the past few days, ever since they introduced the Playoff Best Ball. And that's that little promo that I've been putting at the top of all my shows where I'm talking about the Bills' value in these playoffs. That's because right now they're going in rounds 3 through 6, and it's a huge opportunity to stack Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and James Cook and get a good value for it. Because once they start winning and once people start hyping them up as making the playoffs again, we're going to lose that value. They're going to go right back probably to, like maybe round 1 or something. So I'm taking advantage of it now while I can. If I'm wrong, then I lose whatever money that I drafted these Bills teams, and I'm going to be ending up with a bunch of teams with dead spots leading into week 1. That's the risk of drafting this early. But, like this, if they lose after this week, I won't have that much money invested in it. But I will have a decent amount of teams if they do end up continuing to win and they end up making it into the playoffs. I'll be set up pretty good. So it's all a gamble. It's a risk, but that's the way that I'm playing right now. There may be some teams that you like that you think is a good value, and that's why it's important to do this playoff machine that ESPN does, because you can kind of make your own predictions on the teams that are going to make it to the playoffs. You can see in round 1, right? The Colts versus the Chiefs. So I probably wouldn't draft very many Colts unless I think that they can upset the Chiefs in Arrowhead. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars facing off against the Houston Texans. That's a divisional game. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars could pull off an upset. This is projecting that the Texans are going to win the division. By the way, they still have to win the division. There's a lot of ifs here in these projections. So don't lock in anything by any means, but like mess around with this playoff machine. And then I have the Cleveland Browns versus the Buffalo Bills. Bills can handle the Browns, I think, and advance to that next round. I think the best matchups are going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars if they end up facing the Houston Texans. That's going to be a great round one matchup on the AFC side, because I think a lot of points will be put up in that game. There are two bad defenses facing off against each other with two powerful offenses. So a lot of the teams advancing to round two might have a lot of Jacksonville or Houston exposure if this is the playoff scenario that ends up happening, right? Baltimore, if you're drafting Baltimore, you got to be ready to take a goose egg on those Baltimore guys in week one because they're on a bye. So you got to cover it up maybe by drafting a bunch of Jags and Texans if you believe that the Jags and Texans are going to face off in round one of the playoffs, right? That'll cover your ass for drafting, number one seed Baltimore or number one seed San Francisco. You're trying to cover your ass in that first round when you draft like these number one seeds. Then you got the Eagles versus the Rams. I think that could be a high-scoring game as well. And the Eagles are a team that I think can make it far in the playoffs, so I'm already sold on the Eagles. I probably would not draft a bunch of Rams. I'm not looking to stack that game. I'm looking to get as many players as I can through to the next round. But in those later rounds where you're willing to sacrifice one or two spots, that's where I would stack the Rams. Maybe take Kyren Williams or Cooper Kupp or a guy like that is going super late in these drafts because people aren't projecting Los Angeles to make it very far in the playoffs. So you can get them super late in these drafts. Now, remember, promo code SEEK. Go to Underdog, deposit $100. If it's your first deposit, open account, deposit $100. And if it's your first deposit, Underdog is going to match you up to $100 by using the promo code SEEK. And then you can mess around with this. So Green Bay at Detroit is another projection that I have. I think that would be a high-scoring game as well. Green Bay has a decent defense, but we've seen them be susceptible. Detroit would be playing at home, which is where we like to see Detroit play, and they do well at home. And it would be the third meeting between these two teams, and it has a couple offenses that have the ability to put up points. So this would be a good game to target. And if you think that Green Bay can upset Detroit, then you can get those Packers super late and load up on the Packers, And same with Dallas versus Tampa Bay. If you think that, I mean, technically it would be an upset for number 5 seed to beat a number 4 seed, but I think Dallas will obviously be the favorites in this game. But if you think that Tampa Bay can upset Dallas and you want to stack a bunch of Tampa Bay guys, think of the weapons they got. They got Rachaad White, who I took, Mike Evans, who I took, and Chris Godwin, guys like that, Baker Mayfield, if you want to throw him in there. You can grab all those guys at the very end of these drafts. So you can build teams like the Bucks, the Packers, even the Lions to an extent. You can build the Jags late. You can build the Texans late. All those teams you can build late. You can build the Browns late. I don't know if I'll have any Browns exposure, but if you think that the Browns can pull off an upset and advance to round 2 of the playoffs, then that would make sense. But it's all projecting the playoffs, and it's all taking advantage of value. It's a really fun game to play, and I hope you guys mess around with it. Use that promo code SEEK. Hit like on this video. Get me to 15 likes. I'm going to be putting out short videos with value that I notice in the ADP. Get me to 20 likes on this video. It's got a little bit more shelf life. Get me to 20 likes to put out a short video with some ADP that I like. And open up an account on Underdog. Use the promo code SEEK. Deposit $100. They're going to match you up to $100 if you use the promo code SEEK for new depositors. All right, guys, good luck, and I'll see you next time.